Because then you can clip it easy and you already have it.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone, or wherever you are in the world. Good afternoon, good evening. We are here with the tip of the spear. Been researching Epstein and Maxwell for decades. Ryan Dawson. And
He's right there in the middle. There's Peter Thiel right there. He's been there for 9 years.
We're going to get
a lot of what's come out in these emails is just vindication of what I've been putting out for over a decade.
We are going to get into the release of the emails. We're going to get into the possibilities for Maxwell. We're going to be looking at the role of intelligence agencies and why is Trump protecting Maxwell and not releasing the files. And we're going to take your viewer questions. So please put your questions in the chat. Also, Ryan has got a load of badass merch. He doesn't ask for donations, but we can support him through his merch. We've bought tons of stuff. We've got Ziggy's Ryan Dawson University clothes, but he's now re-upped with lots of new designs. As you can see, he's wearing the Epstein map top. Is that a hoodie?
Yeah. Check it out. I have the client list on the back. You see all his names?
Yeah.
Rose.
And there's a promo code in the description box, Ryan. What will that get the viewers?
10% off any Epstein gear. That's the hoodie, the map, shirt, any Epstein related product. 10% off. Nice. It's nice to get somebody a map as a stocking stuffer for Christmas.
Yeah.
And the code is you just write Atwood, but all caps. ATTWOOD.
Yeah.
And that should last for 3 days, maybe 4 days.
All right. Where should we start on this story that there's just so many threads of?
Sean, do you remember when I came to the UK and I wore the Prince Andrew shirt I made?
Yeah.
Fresh Prince of Belgrade.
And now he's the prince with no name.
Yeah. And, you know, it seems like because the House Oversight Committee just dumped these 20,000 pages of emails. It seems like the Royals got a little heads up because they got some of the 2011 emails about Andrew last time I was on the show, which wasn't that long ago, like a few weeks ago. They got a kind of knew this was about to hit the fan. So it's interesting that, you know, why didn't this happen a little earlier? Well, the government was shut down in the United States for a long period of time. And as soon as they got back, they went right back to Epstein. It's like, nah, you're not getting away from this. And Thomas Massie, not just Thomas Massie, but he deserves the most credit. He's been going around getting enough votes for this coming Tuesday to release the rest of the Epstein files. He wants to have a large enough majority to override a veto should a veto come from the president. It looks like he got it.
Wow.
This is happening.
Yeah. Wow. Do you think it will topple the administration like it's toppled Prince Andrew?
It could topple a lot more than government. It would cripple big business.
In what way?
Because a lot of these bankers and donors and hedge fund managers and things are all involved in this. I mean, I guess they have enough of a deep bench to fire and replace people, but if they've really released the files, I just can't even imagine the shakeup. It's not just like Reid Hoffman and Larry Summers. Like this, that's already a big deal right there. That's a billionaire. Like Wexner, of course. I mean, he has not been mentioned in these emails, but there's another billionaire. I mean, that's the thing. The main progenitors, the main financiers like Wexner and Leon Black and all are not in this latest media buzz. But people like Summers are, Trump. The first thing people did, and this is so lazy of them, but they just like Control F and look for his name and immediately talked about the 3 or 4 emails like, oh, there you go. Ended up with like 11 that mentioned him. And they reported that and only that. It's like, guys, it's a lot. It's a lot more than that. Imran Khan from Pakistan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and also apparently a professional cricket player before that, is mentioned, but in a way that like Epstein didn't like him at all. Thought he was more dangerous than Erdogan or Kim Jong-un or anybody. Did not want him to be prime minister. And in fact, Khan had 3 wives, 2 of whom were the daughters of friends of Jeffrey Epstein. Isn't that something? One is Gordon White, or Lord Gordon White, and the other is Jim Goldsmith, or Jimmy Goldsmith. And so they were daughters. One only was there from less than a year, but the other was married to him for a while. And Jeffrey's like, God, man, you know everybody. You know, like, all these people. And so that's been reported, but not widely. So I thought I'd start with that one. It's another major couple of guys and the prime minister of Pakistan only, no big deal. And then you've got, of course, a lot with Trump, Michael Wolff, who's been acting like he was just a journalist, and he's actively like planning with Epstein how to leverage things against other people. He's totally a culprit, totally knew what he was up to, and it didn't bother him. He's going to have a hard time. Actually, he did an interview with this woman. He said, well, in an email, you know how emails can sound. Yeah, okay. But what you literally wrote was, like, how do you twist that? I would like to see the mental gymnastics on this. He doesn't explain. Well, okay, if it doesn't mean what you say, what did you mean? There's no way he's cooked. Epstein's brother is cooked, because Mark Epstein, if you remember, after Epstein died, and he was the one who got a second autopsy, which discovered the broken bones in his neck, which gave credence to the theory that he was suicided, not that he unalived him. He didn't unalive himself by himself that way. But Mark Epstein was like, oh, we were estranged and we didn't really communicate. That's BS. And I told you that was BS because it was Mark Epstein properties adjacent to Jeffrey that was housing the girls and stuff. He absolutely knew. It was totally part of it. And he's making jokes, hopefully only jokes, in the emails referring to Donnie T, which is Donald Trump, and saying, does Putin have the photographs of Donald blowing Bubba? Bubba, of course, is a nickname for Bill Clinton. Now, I want to point this out. He does not say, does Putin have photographs of Donnie blowing Bubba, like some outrageous thing? He said, does Putin have the photos of Donnie blowing Bubba, meaning they exist? Does he have those or some other ones? However, the way New Yorkers talk, that can still mean nothing because they are incapable of truth. But it does have the article like that one, the photos of this. The reply there's no like, oh yeah, so maybe it does sound like it's a joke, but you never know. You never know. If he did, if you ask Clinton, what do you think of Trump? He said he blows. It's like, well, it's another thing he's better at than Hillary. Sorry. But the larger, like, what you can pull away from that is this idea that Mark and Jeff were estranged is total bullcrap. Like, he knew, he made a joke about, sexual photos and compromising people, which is like, so he's involved in blackmail. It's sexual blackmail. That he's friends with Donald. So he knew about the operation. He is an accessory, and he was just acting like, oh, of course he distanced himself from Jeffrey Epstein, but nope, he knew, and he was making jokes about sexual blackmail. So there's that. And so that then gives a lot more weight to his tie to housing MC squared models for Jean-Luc Brunel, who was, he's dead too now, but he's right there. He's was bringing in young French and Eastern European girls who they would passport trap and force into commercial sex work. So there's that one. You can ask me, like, there's a lot of mail. There's some of the things that people had not said yet. I think I'm probably going to say the same thing others have said on some of these other emails, because sometimes things just are what they are. They're not that complicated. But Steve Bannon, he's toast. Cooked, as the kids say. Actively planning with Epstein how to use and manipulate and hold leverage over people, including Trump. So Bannon just, in this idea that, oh no, Trump and Epstein were estranged at a certain point after the property dispute. They were certainly mad at each other, but you don't let go of power if you have it. So they definitely, he was definitely in Trump's inner circle all the way until June of 2019, and he got arrested the next month. So he was still planning things. And he also mentioned, I'm the one who could take him down. What a weird thing to say. What are you saying? Are you saying you hold blackmail over people? Because Michael Tracy said that's impossible. I'm the one who could take him down. He also offered photos of Donald with in his kitchen with girls in bikinis. Not illegal. A little creepy. And by girls, he means women, probably. But it's Epstein, so maybe it was girls. In American English, when people say girls, they often just mean women. I mean, people say my girlfriend instead of woman friend. You know, it's an adult, but don't get confused on that. But he said Donald left his nose print on the glass door. Apparently, there's some girls in the pool, and he walked right into a sliding glass door. I can imagine that. But we have, and then the dog that didn't bark. Well, that's not actually what he said. That's what it says in The Adventures of Silver, I think it's called, for Sherlock Holmes, is the dog that didn't bark. But if you read it, it says the dog that hasn't barked. And that difference, that makes a difference. Like, he hasn't yet. Not that he didn't, but he hasn't. And he's saying to Glenn Maxwell, I believe the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And because he spent hours with a victim, which some people are reporting was Virginia Giuffre, in Epstein's house. And he hasn't been mentioned at all yet. Meaning she hasn't said anything about him, which would say either he's in there plotting with her of how to take Epstein down, or the dog that hasn't barked is implying that someone in your inner circle is the one taking you down. Because in the story, it's in the stables where the dog's not barking. It's because whoever's going in there is somebody the dog's already familiar with, so it doesn't bark. So he thinks because he's discussing with Glenn Maxwell, like, who spilled the beans. And there's a guy who's in his houses all the time and with the girl that's running her mouth the most. And he's the only one not being told on. So it looks like here's our betrayer right here. That's my opinion of what that email meant. And he said, I'm 75% the way there. And then Maxwell said, I've been thinking about that. So they were trying to figure out who it was. Because if you think a 14-year-old and her parents like suddenly took Epstein down in the late 2007, girls have been telling on him and been telling the police, and even told the FBI as far back as 96 with Maria Farmer, and it was ignored. Now, if some, I don't know, billionaire from New York had her back and they say, look, it's going to come here and then it's going to come from here, well, that would do it. That could get you in major trouble. And Virginia wasn't even around at that time. She comes later. So, yeah. He may have been, and now they'll make a big deal of Trump kicking him out of Mar-a-Lago. But he was never a member of Mar-a-Lago. So you can't really cancel a membership that didn't exist. What they meant by kicking out is stop letting them poach girls off the property, because he was going around to the spas and tennis courts and trying to prey on the young women in that area, a weird place to recruit girls, but you do like Robert Miller, just hang around the high schools or middle schools in their case, I guess. Disgusting. But that does fit. By all accounts, Maxwell's the one that went to Mar-a-Lago and recruited Virginia, and not Epstein. He would stay in his little Pepto-Bismol house and send the women out to recruit other women. It doesn't work quite as well for an old guy to get out and be like, hey, want to massage me at my house? Is that But if you get someone a little close to their age, that posh British accent goes far in some places in Florida, and it's a woman. She's more trustworthy, and it's like, oh, I know this guy. He'll give you money, and everyone knows how the routine is by now. So she was the one who needed to be kicked off the properties because she was doing 100% of the recruiting, her or Ava Dubin or one of the other women. That's, Sarah Kellen, that's who was doing that. And then they got the girls to start recruiting each other. So they make it, they very careful with their language. Like, oh, he was kicked out. He was never a member anyway. Oh, I never went to the island. Doesn't matter. It's islands, plural, but they mean Little St. Jeffrey's. Oh, most of what they did not happen on that island. It happened in Palm Beach. It happened in New York. It happened in New Mexico. It happened in Paris. It happened in Ohio. That island is just one of the properties. And it would be weird to go there because it's very out of the way. You'd have to go to St. Thomas and then helicopter over. And they did have parties there and invite magicians like David Copperfield and stuff. David Blaine's girlfriend's in the emails too. Harvey Weinstein aggressively hit on her. She did not take the bait, by the way. But so some of that other grotesque stuff is coming out. But really, I don't think anybody has read all 20,000 pages yet. I think people are searching for certain names and then trying to find. It's going to take a couple more days for me, at least, to sit down and just read them all in a row. I haven't done it yet. And partly because I'm going blind, but like I'm gonna go through them. But I did look for names and stuff because I already have them on my back, and I'm getting vindicated left and right. But a lot of things are they nickname or they shorten names and stuff, so you can't just search for things like that. And you never know what piece of the puzzle is going to be important later or fits with information we already have. It doesn't have to be a big name. And a lot of the mail, too, is on money laundering, just openly like who they're introducing people, to other people in a pay-to-play scheme. And the gambit they had down there, the Virgin Islands. And one of the things, and this, I think was a New Yorker, and well, it's a New Yorker and say that's enough. But they reported on this. Might have been BBC, which would shock me because they're always lying, but sometimes they'll tell the truth. But they reported that Stacey Plaskett was receiving emails during a hearing in Congress. She's sitting there looking at her phone, receiving texts from Jeffrey Epstein. Isn't that disgusting? But that is the only case left. And this is really going to hurt her case because her lawyers last March, they said, you're going to trial because unlike these others, you came to New York and solicited money. So you're in that jurisdiction, not Florida. You don't get the sweetheart deal. And so in August, they tried to get it dismissed. And the judge was like, you better write more than 2 sentences, explain your case, why this ought to be dismissed. And then October, they tried again. The judge still said no. Now, with this revelation, with her being all in the emails and her on film, because they looked at the timestamps and days and stuff, looking at Jeffrey Epstein text during a congressional hearing, that's going to really damage her case as far as being able to get it thrown out. Now, if it's not thrown out, this is glorious. And this is too, if Tuesday comes and they vote and there's a big information dump, there's hundreds of names involved in that Stacey Plaskett case that I can't imagine you could release because it would compromise an ongoing trial. So that would all have to be redacted and all, but that's not a bad thing. It just means like if the trial doesn't go through, then you can release it all. And if it does, those people are going to get smacked anyway. So, and it does say in what is available, if you read all the court documents, that people were trafficked for what's it? How does it say? Commercial sex purposes. That's prostitution, and you're looking at 3-digit numbers. Yeah. And that, that alone, even if Congress released nothing, if the Stacey Plaskett case went to trial and it was fair and they prosecuted these people, then we'd have all these names and you could start, heads could roll. Because what happened with Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan Chase, who, by the way, the only two banks that have apologized and distanced themselves, the other ones are still Team Epstein. What happened there is a whole bunch of Jane Does got paid out by a whole bunch of John Does. So the kind of was, here's your money, shut your mouth situation. So you don't get to know who the Johns are, and you don't get to know the majority of the Jane Does. Some of them voluntarily said it was me, whatever. But Plaskett could be different. So there, I want to remind everybody that is an ongoing trial, and it is massive and involves the Virgin Islands, and the whole thing was set in motion by a real G named Denise George. So her last name does begin with G. She lost her job. She was the AG, the Attorney General in the Virgin Islands, and she put that lawsuit forward on JP Morgan Chase and then Deutsche Bank, and she's the one that went after all these St. Thomas Epstein affiliates. Like the governor's wife was being paid $200,000 by Jeffrey Epstein. Now, he didn't donate to the governor; he donated to the governor's wife, Cecil DeRhodes, or But all these people got immunity, even though she was witnessed him brutally raping two girls in the office next to her, and they're disgusting. I think I already went over all that with you one time, so people could see a prior episode of all the stuff in the Virgin Islands. But that was their main way of tax evasion, and he would provide that for his friends through his companies. They just move money around in circles and things. So it'd be very exciting to see what Congress releases, and more than just these emails, and finally get to the bottom of this case, the most prolific state-sponsored kitty fiddling ring known to man.
Yeah, you've got tons of questions coming in as well. And my question, firstly, is, before we came on there, we were discussing, I had Kirby Summers on the other day, and she really focused on the several hours that Trump spent with Virginia. And she said that a man that's as busy as Trump wouldn't be spending hours and hours with a teenage girl, discussing politics. So she thinks that something definitely happened, and that her lawyer, Virginia's lawyer, Boyes, was telling or steering Virginia in a way whereby certain names that he was looking out for, like Al Gore and Trump, were to be protected at all costs. What do you think about that theory, Ryan?
I think it's a good analysis to say, why is Trump hanging out with a teenager? Even though I'd argue they're on the same mentality level. Why do you even know a 16, 17-year-old at all when you're like, I don't know, 50 or whatever he was, 50, 60 years old? That that shouldn't happen. The only explanation would be because he did hire her father and knew him. He did hire her and knew her as an employee, gave her a babysitting job. So he'd seen her again, like introduced her to other people. And he's around the Epstein properties. And like usually the girls would come and go. She was basically living with them at a certain point. And that might have been odd. Like, hey, don't you work in Mar-a-Lago? If he had noticed that, or if she had mentioned that, then one explanation for why they would spend, an hour together is her explaining everything that's happening to everybody. And then he would have to be very careful about how to take that down, because he himself is compromised. Jeffrey's got everything on him too. Even if he didn't do underage, he's still fooling around with a bunch of girls and just being a lecherous ass who constantly is having to pay people off. Stormy Daniels, Karen McDougal, and who knows who else. So, you'd have to be very careful. You'd have to almost become president before you could do anything. They did not see that coming, I promise you. They did not see him becoming president and arresting Epstein and Burnell and Maxwell.
So do you think that, so many people are speculating now that this is the end of Trump, just like we've seen it's been the end of Prince Andrew? Do you think it could go all the way like it's done with Prince Andrew?
I certainly hope so. It's weird to me that this is what would bring him down, not blowing up civilians in Yemen, not the genocide in Gaza, not, umpteen million idiotic things he's done, tearing up the missile treaty in Ukraine and Russia. That was smart. But if this is what gets him, so be it. The fact that he's like saying it's a Democrat hoax, man, no, it's not. Plenty of Democrats on that list. He's like trying to fake news his way out of this, acting like it's no big deal. We got other important things. I mean, you can almost guarantee after this vote on Tuesday that Operation Southern Spear, war with Venezuela for no reason, will be going. Like, they're going to need major conflict to bump this off the front burner. And honestly, short of like a war with China or something, I don't even think a war with Venezuela or Iran or invading Nigeria, I don't think that would do it. I don't think there's anything that is going to get the public to stop talking about Epstein.
Yeah, we were discussing this with Professor Hamamoto last night, and when Thatcher invaded the Falklands, she said she boasted that her popularity rode for years off the back of that, and that's what she transferred that over to the Bush crime family, and they certainly incorporated.
Well, isn't that where Andrew messed up his adrenal glands and lost his ability to sweat?
Well, he was in this country at that time. His popularity was at a high because of the PR he got around the war and everything. That he's this charming guy, and to go from that to absolutely trash his life in the way he's done, for what? For bloody Jeffrey Epstein and what Jeffrey Epstein provided playtime. Can't wait to play some more, Jeffrey.
They need to get on Andrew's case about Peter Nygaard. It's the same thing. He did the same things with him, and that guy he was down with the brown, and I'm not talking about race. Yeah,
he was down with aborted babies' elixir of life. That's what he was working on, wasn't he, Nygaard?
He's trying to stay young forever. He was on a cocktail of SARMs and roids and everything else. Him and his little gold mullet, but he was he liked to stink, He liked the diaper parties.
You're getting asked about why would he invade Venezuela? I think there's a lobby pushing for the invasion of Venezuela because it's the biggest oil reserves in the world, and Iran is near the top of the oil reserves in the world. So there's multiple vested interests in these invasions: military-industrial complex, big pharma. I think the military is the biggest consumer of big pharma, and the prison-industrial complex is second. So it's a racket. It's perpetual profits for these huge corporations that are owned by the banksters. So, and he's using this pretext to stop the drugs, but the drugs are grown in Peru, down there, come up through Colombian jungle labs, come in through Mexico. Yeah, there's drugs coming in and out of every country. You can see it's a catch-all.
It's not a narco war. That's not what it is. They've been on and off about this since Hugo Chavez was president, and so you could go all the way back to Bush the Lesser. And especially with Obama, too. It was really heated up under Obama as well, where they've been kind of hot and cold on Venezuela. And Marco Rubio really this is his brainchild or whatever. And they're flirting with it, and there's no point in it. But Venezuela cut off all oil to the country that runs the United States. because they were like, oh, they want their oil. Well, Venezuela offered to give us all the oil and gas, and that didn't do anything. There's another country that's not getting oil from Venezuela or Colombia. We'll just say the country that has prison grape, and a lot of them are on this map, actually. There's Ehud Barak right there. And Moshe Katsav and Ehud Barak right there. President and prime minister of the state that wants us to invade Venezuela. In fact, Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson was just talking about it on a show. You see if he could tell you a lot about Venezuela. Get him on too. But then Sean's right. Like, you have the MIC. Weapons are not weapons, and logistics and everything involved in weapons is number one. Number two is like big pharma and energy, and three, and energy includes oil and gas. And the narcotics thing is, if they wanted to end that, they could end that. The fact that you can still get drugs in jail, like where you are in a cage and they completely control you and it still comes in, I mean, that isn't their aim. You can see the whole streets in Philadelphia and other cities of these zombie people. They're all hunched over on benzoids, and they say fentanyl, but it's actually a combo of things. They're not arresting the drug dealers, because each one of those cases, like the charity workers get paid per zombie. And so they have no vested interest in preventing zombies. They just they profit from sickness. So,
and the CIA is running the drug trade. So
exactly.
They use the other three-letter agencies to put the competition out of business so they can maintain control. And they justify it by saying, well, if the goddamn communists get it, running the drugs, they're going to be knocking on our door. Domino effect. National security.
Yeah, They liberated so much opium from Afghanistan, and prior to that, Vietnam and Laos. So you had the Golden Crescent and the Golden Triangle. In Venezuela, like, yeah, okay, do Colombia and Venezuela have cocaine? Yeah, but that's not what they're being accused of. It's the fentanyl and stuff, but they're attacking fishermen. They're just attacking regular boats, and Trump is trying to find some justification to where he can just blow up boats without a declaration of war or proof or trial. He wants these extrajudicial assassinations, which they're not. I mean, they cannot put up with that, but for so long. And Trinidad right now is acting how Honduras used to be with School of the Americas, as just a land aircraft carrier for the United States. And they could get invaded by Venezuela. Like, Venezuela, what is it, 51 million or something around that? It's mostly jungle, much larger than Vietnam, much closer, but much larger. It would be an absolute mess. And I don't see them doing a Normandy-style invasion of Venezuela. I see attempts at assassination, pager strike style airstrikes and naval bombardment, but it'll spill into a war, and that could drag Colombia into it too. You're looking at a real mess, and it's not in American interest at all, and it will have zero impact on the level of drugs in the United States. None.
So you're getting asked, what do you think that Maxwell still has more on Trump?
I'm sure she does. In fact, I mean, why do you think they put her in a minimum security prison and now she has all these privileges and things? They're like, stay quiet. We'll make you as comfortable as possible until you get a pardon.
She's got gourmet food. She's got a puppy. She's got a personal trainer. They're saying she's running that joint. And if anyone criticizes her, they get shipped out to another prison. This is crazy town. She's the poster child for human transportation, the very human transportation the administration said they were going to expose and go after. And they're rewarding the head honcho.
She's like the kingpin from Daredevil, like running like the mob boss in a prison.
3 guards were fired recently for not accommodating Maxwell, not feeding her grapes and fanning her. And
see, I miss the days where she refused to take a shower. Yeah, she was so petty. Do you remember during her trial where she took a bunch of boxes of files and things and made a barricade and wouldn't come out of her room.
I remember when she was complaining about all the conditions, and that's like the conditions all across America for all prisoners. And she was saying, "This is so hard. Why am I here?"
Because you raped a bunch of kids. You know, you should be put to death.
Well, I'm curious about this.
They should have bring back the firing squad and make it public.
So the value of Epstein's estate just increased dramatically because the US federal government gave it a tax refund. How does that work, Ryan?
Well, what happened to the property in Florida? They bulldozed it down. Like that was a crime scene, and it got demolished, and they concreted over. You know, we say they papered over. No, they concreted over much of his property in the Caribbean too. So yeah, the estate gets a tax refund.
$112 million.
Yeah. I'm sure Darren Endike and co are happy about that one. There's still hush payments being made. I remember when that came out. I think it was a senator from Wisconsin. He was like, "What is this? Why are all these banks still moving this money around?" You know why.
It says here the funds are being used to cover outstanding legal fees, of course they are, Dershowitz, and other claims. Potential beneficiaries of the remaining estate after all liabilities are settled could include Jeffrey's former girlfriend, Karina, and the estate's executors, Darren Endike and Richard Kahn. Oh, they're going to get some. The ultimate distribution of the assets is still subject to ongoing legal scrutiny and probate proceedings in the US Virgin Islands. It was down to 40 million. And now with this boost of 112 million, it's back up to 162 million. That's insane.
He called Dershowitz insane. He said Trump was insane and Dershowitz is just one step behind him. Mister, I kept my underwear on. Whoa. I don't know what's going on in an adjacent room. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. What a scumbag.
Did you watch him on Piers Morgan last week?
No.
He basically said that Trump, Bongino, etc., Patel have no power to release the Epstein files. That power is governed by two judges, which he named. And then the other guys on the panel shut him down and said, those judges are only overseeing 3% of the Epstein files. What are you talking about? And he was squirming around, trying to double down.
The guy lies every time he talks. And he's defended serial rapists his whole career. Like, what a weird thing to do.
And he wants the age of consent reduced.
Yeah, and he wrote an article about CP should be doesn't harm anyone and ought to be legal. What about the children in the pictures? They're being harmed.
Oh my God. That is absolutely sickening. All right, so you got quite a few people asking about Jeffrey's relationship with Peter Thiel and what you think of Palantir.
You know what? I was on a show today with a chauffeur, a limo driver of Peter Thiel. He's right here too. He's right there.
Wow.
They've been on this map. They've been on this map the whole time. A little PayPal founder, him and Thiel and his PayPal buddy, and also Eric Prince, the founder of Blackwater. They're all involved in that little clique. Thiel is a homosexual, but he how can I say this on YouTube? I'm not. It's worse than Nygaard, put it that way.
Yeah, be careful.
But he, you know, who wants NSO or Pegasus or Palantir? Like, who wants that? It's really all comes from the Richard Pearl's total data awareness. And Andrew Tate's right about this. This is the last generation where you can resist, because they're going to have you, if you think this coming digital ID is bad in the UK, and it is, it's going to be where you, like pre-crime Minority Report with Tom Cruise. Oh, based on your metadata, we think you were about to do this. It's so bad. And they use that software to do in face recognition to just target and murder civilians in Palestine. And Palestine's a beta test. It's an Indian reservation. They always mess with that and then bring the product to the rest of the world. You know, the Khashoggis are wrapped up in the NSO business. That's how they found them.
You're getting asked about the Trump-Melania relationship. How did they meet? And the history of Ivana and Epstein, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that now, right? But Melania is suing Michael Wolff, I think, is it, over some of this exaggerations and lie. He's totally been after Trump, and these emails prove that. And I'm not defending Trump. I'm just saying F them all. But like Michael Wolff's no hero. Like he's in there colluding with Epstein about what to do with Epstein's enemies. So, you know, but Melania is suing for $1 billion. I believe they met because she was a model and Trump ran a lot of the modeling agencies and was in that world. You know, he's on his third wife. I will say one good thing about Trump and her. All 5 of his kids are functional and not screw ups, you know, and Barron seems to be doing well. So, you know, how many politicians' children can you say that about? How many celebrity kids at all turn out okay? Not many.
Question from Saint Germain. Does Ryan know Ellie Leonard found email allegedly proving Dershowitz forced Virginia through her lawyer to recant her accusation of being raped by Dersh?
I have not seen that verified or not. I know that in an email with Virginia, one of her lawyers said she was kind of reminded, don't forget Alan Dershowitz. You probably saw him there. You knew him. But the you is the plural you, meaning you and the other girls, because she was talking before that about all the different people at the house that were getting massages plus extra. But I don't even need that because Dershowitz cooked himself by changing his story multiple times, saying he got a massage, but he kept his underwear on, meaning the rest of his clothes were not on. And then he said it was just a neck and shoulder rub. And then he tried to weasel out of it by changing the location and saying, I didn't get a massage in Palm Beach, but no one said you did. It was always in Ohio. And so he's just acting plain stupid. And that is something a lot of liars do, is they'll admit that it's called like double speak. Well, they'll say a thing like, well, I didn't do X, but that's not what we were asked. You know, when you add in Florida, then it's true. But no one asked you about that. Did you get a massage anywhere in your underwear from girls that you did? Whose lawyer is like, hey, like if you came to my house, hey, Sean, you want a massage from this girl that looks 14 in your underwear? You'd be like, well, no. Like, no, ever. Why are these kids even in his house? That's the question. You don't be like, well, attorney-client privilege or whatever. Like, could you stop being a robot person for 2 seconds and just look around and see a bunch of underage girls in someone's house doing things they not ought to be doing? And apparently you're getting a massage from at least one of them, but it's okay because you kept your underwear on, meaning I didn't do what all the other guys did. Like, dude, why are you even in that situation at all? So email schmeemail, he's cooked out by his own mouth. And I swear that these people kind of want you to know they did it, and they want you to know they're going to get away with it.
He's so brazen, isn't he? And smug.
Yeah. And it's like he lost the debate very badly to Larry Johnson on Crosstalk. I think it was James Carville, and I think it was Tucker Carlson too, way back. No, wait, sorry. It was Robert Novak. He was also on Crossfire with Tucker, but whatever. Dershowitz is talking to him, and Larry is just choke slamming him through the Spanish announce table. It was something. And Larry said, you know, he went in there thinking, oh man, this guy's a Harvard lawyer, But as soon as he started talking, it's all intimidation. He's a moron. He's a serial liar. He's just like, I'll sue you. And he's just an ugly troll, 1 foot in the grave, constantly defending serial rapists like Roman Polanski, who did it to a 13-year-old boy and fled to France. And he's on that map, or this map, if you get the map, Dershowitz and all his associates that he defended, and he got an award from the ADL. which was formed by B'nai B'rith to defend a man who raped and murdered Mary Fagan, a 13-year-old girl that worked in a pencil factory. That was Leo Frank, and that was the whole reason the ADL was created, was to protect one of their own who had engaged in serial raping and eventually murder, which he tried to pin on two black people in the South in early 1913. And they said, no, it was you. We interviewed all the employees that shouldn't have been there. It was already breaking child labor laws. And you flirted with everybody, especially Mary. When she came to get her paycheck, he bashed her head in and brutalized her below the waist, and then couldn't drag the body. So he had someone do that. But they ended up breaking into the jail and giving him Southern justice in a thrilling 21-mile-an-hour car chase where they brought him to the woods and they hanged him. So they went into the jail and got him because the B'nai B'rith and the newly formed ADL were bribing the governor to commute his sentence, as they do.
Wow.
This is how these people operate. Like, they're out there protecting child predators under the guise of, like, oh, we're Jewish. We're like, it's got nothing to do with your ethnic group or your religion. You're a cult that is using that as a shield. Like, there's a lot of Catholic priests that engage in that. Is not intrinsically tied to Catholicism. It's just a type of way where you can avoid the law, because you can say with confession and stuff, you can't subpoena me. I can't, because of my faith, blah, 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 blah. Epstein actually discussed that with Bannon. Like, hey, could we do something like that and get a clergy? And it's sick. They're just using religion. They're just using anything. They're Machiavellians. They're just whatever that they can get away with, they're going to do. And Dershowitz represents that to the T. Just if the law will allow it, it's okay. He has no morals. He has no morality at all.
You've got predators joining the Catholic Church because they know if they get caught, the Catholic Church will protect them, get them high-priced lawyers, minimize their sentences, move them to different dioceses, move them overseas to a different country, go at length to enable these people to have long-lasting criminal careers. It's absolutely sickening.
It's weird because they're like, the reasoning is, oh, well, we don't want a priest to get busted in this. It makes the whole church look bad. Yeah, well, moving them around and protecting predators makes you look worse, because now all of you are in on it, not just a few bad apples. But that was the decision they decided to do. They used to move priests around constantly, and it's like a running stereotype about Catholics now. It happens so often. It's just like, oh, well, don't bend over in front of a priest, not a Catholic one at least.
So Lisa wants to know, if Andrew Mountbatten wins there, things could get worse and he could possibly end up in jail.
I wish. I don't think so. He's just too wealthy and important, but it's where he belongs, both from Epstein and Nygaard. But, you know, there's a lot of pay to play with him, too, that's sort of not getting attention because this other juicy bit is so, it's just so good, electric or whatever, with what he's doing with the kids and Virginia Giuffre. But if you look into Andrew's past and a lot of the business deals he did, he's crooked as, he's like Hunter Biden, well, almost Hunter Biden level crooked. He's up there, and he should be in jail for that. And I don't know. It really depends on the public. Like, if the media sticks on it and you don't let this die, you don't get shifted to the next distraction story, whatever, then it's possible. It's possible. I just think the way things normally go is they ring the car, they shake the car keys, and people are in the next story, and they forget about Prince Andrew. I hope that's not the case. I hope you say, nah, this crime's too great. You've done irreparable damage to the royal family. Not that I sympathize, but some people like the royals. So you need to go to prison. It can be a little fancy rich kid prison or whatever, but you need to have your freedom taken away.
All right. So Gloria wants to know more about the relationship between Epstein and Tony Blair. I imagine that would include Mandelson as well.
Yeah. Apparently, Tony Blair liked to boink other people's wives. I have not heard from any underage victims with Tony Blair, though. Just almost underage. So, but that's all. That's bad too. You know, it's
Whose
just.
wives are targeted?
I have to go back and look that up because that's like 2003, 4, 5 research for me. You know, back when he was leading the Warner Rock and things, did a deep dive in Tony Blair, and he used to have kind of pale blue gray eyes, and that's what they would nickname him in some of the documents and things. So, have to dig that up.
You're having a few people
Or it might
asking
come
for
to
your.
me sometimes when I'm talking. I just here it is. That's it.
You had a few people in the chat are asking for your thoughts on the developments in the Charlie Kirk assassination story.
Yeah, that's like the new conspiracy cocaine, because Candace Owens has a new theory every other day. To me, it looks like guy on the roof shot him and it went down his body lengthwise. It hit the chain on his neck and just, there is no exit wound. So there's no other place it could have gone. And all this fancy stuff, like he was not wearing body armor. There was no getaway plane. There was no Google Trends. They made that up. They're like, look, Google Trends has a spike. There was a meeting in July, blah, blah, blah. Go to Google Trends, type in Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk. There's nothing until September 12th. Like that is verifiable. And Candace saying the plane took off afterward, it wasn't true. She didn't understand time zones. That Egyptian getaway plane that actually went to Florida and did not turn off its transponders, which had nothing to do with the assassination, and it left at 7 a.m. Charlie was killed at 12:20 in the afternoon. But it's just like I get tired of debunking it because they just have a new one the next day. So I'm like, look, there's a trial. She didn't even know the messages. She's like, oh, they don't have timestamps, and Discord said they didn't exist. They're not talking about the Discord messages. They're talking about text messages. Don't have timestamps. And it's really stupid to say that stuff is fake because you don't like the way they said vehicle, even though he's on tape saying that to a cop. And a lot of gamers say vehicle. That is really low level evidence to just reject text messages because they don't talk the way you think teenagers ought to talk. If that stuff was fake, all his lawyer would have to do is subpoena the cell phone records. And if it's not on both phones, Tyler walks. It's a really stupid thing to hinge on because it's not fake and it's very easy to prove and it will be in the trial. So it just, I would get a lot more views and fans and followers if I would just lean into it and glob on to conspiracy garbage, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm not someone that's shy of conspiracy. And I'm definitely not shy of criticizing Israel. Like I was doing that when Candace was in preschool. I was already criticizing Israel. And I just made a 4-hour documentary on September 11th. RyanDawson.org. It's free. All about the Israeli role in that attack and leading us to war in Iraq. So I don't shy from conspiracy if it's true. But you have to have evidence, not speculation. You can't just be like, well, Charlie came to me in a dream and said, blah, blah, blah. This woman thinks the earth is flat, denies the moon landing and a whole bunch of other things, thinks Macron's wife is a man, even though she had 3 kids. She's like, oh, no, she's her brother. Well, you're being sued by her and her brother, who's still alive. It's just so retarded. But #1 podcast because people love entertainment. This is why Jerry Springer was a big show, more than Thomas Sowell, something because people just love the circus. But that is a big problem. If you continue to give attention to clowns, then don't look around dumbfounded as everything decays and falls apart because you let clowns go to the front of the line. You know, that's your leadership. And it's just one dumbass thing after another. And it creates a cult. And they all roll their eyes if you disagree with them. You get attacked by all the candy people. They're like, hey, well, you must this. You hate women. You this. You hate black people. You hate this. No, it's because what she said is fucking stupid. Like, that's all. I'm sorry. And I felt the same way. I really wanted to support Tucker Carlson. Really, really like hoping he would be on our team. He finally woke up and realized Israel killing babies was bad when he's like 50 something years old. Finally recognized, oh man, maybe we shouldn't have a genocide. That's okay. He was really late comer. It's fine. He's on our side. He's got a huge voice. And then he just really shits the bed with everything from chemtrails to a fascist, saying a demon attacked him in his sleep and he's got claw marks. Like, dude, you need an intervention. Sorry. I just wish we had intelligent people on our side that had the biggest microphone, but our biggest microphones are clowns.
Oddly enough, Ryan, I just went on a trip to Glasgow. It was quite a long journey, and David Icke's audiobook, it's 20 hours long, and he gets into what he calls the MAM, the mainstream alternative media.
Yeah.
And he pretty much says exactly what you said about Tucker, but he gets into a lot of the other characters as well that have co-opted what you've been researching for decades and what he's been researching
like David Icke said this stuff about lizards, but we all know Lizard is... We all know, like, he's not that crazy. It's that. And like, yeah, David Icke makes sense compared to Alex Jones and Candy and Tucker. Yeah. And I'm like, listen, I generally agree with these people as far as like, we're all anti-war. Now we're all genocidal. Tucker wasn't for the majority of his life, and Candace just woke up to this like a year ago. We're going to agree on plenty of things, and I will praise them when they do something well. Tucker was excellent when he he had a long interview with Putin. He talked to Jeff Sachs. He did a pretty good thing on Thomas Crooks the other day. There was one mistake in it, but he did pretty good. I mean, he's been doing well. And Candace was great to interview Norman Finkelstein. I mean, that's exactly what they ought to be doing, is talk to smart people and just let them talk 90% of the time and you be quiet. But then they've hit some bad ones. So I don't know. They need better management or something. But like Tucker talking to Scott Horton, that was a dream. Like, there's a guy that can spit out information, correct information, not goofy stuff. More of that, please. Less of the guardian angels stuff. Like, let's keep stuff in, in the parameters of reality.
Yeah, so David Icke's new focus, he's coined this term, the mainstream alternative media, which he calls the MAM. And most of his concern is directed towards the lionization of Elon Musk. But it's hilarious the way he I feel reawakened after reading some of his stuff. It's like,
here's the thing about Elon. That's another guy I really wanted to cheerlead for. But X is broken. Like, my feed is just stagnated for the last 2.5 months. Even all these big events and a new movie and da-da-da-da. But think about this with Elon. When Elon and Trump were friends, it's just, he's up there jumping on the stage like a whatever. He's excited. And he's got Doge, and Elon, good on certain things. He really cares about population rates and stabbings and rapes in the UK or anywhere, and immigration and wasteful money. And okay, those are all the good things about Elon. He's also got like 13 or 14 baby mamas, wants to colonize Mars, which there's a zillion things wrong with that. But what bothers me most is he's friends with Trump until Trump turns on him. And, because he didn't like what Doge was doing. And then Elon's like, Trump's in the Epstein files. That's why you're not going to get him. Whoa, did you just know that the whole time and decided not to say anything until you were mad at each other? Like, if you really thought he was out there molesting girls, you were okay with that as long as he agreed with your other political... Like, he doesn't even... I guess he's autistic for real. Like, do you not understand how bad that makes you look? The fact that you thought this about someone the whole time, but you were his best friend. And then the moment you have a little breakup, now you put it on your platform, X, and say that he's in the Epstein files, and that's why they won't be released. Like, oh, you really believe that? Oh, would you just discover that today? I doubt it.
What's interesting about that, though, that tweet started it running in the news, and it's just not stopped ever since. And that was, half a year ago now?
Yeah, I mean, well, it was also because they did a document dump, but maybe that's related to Elon giving it attention. And that's the thing. Elon could fix everything. He has enough money and enough reach that if he just knew what to say, he could fix everything. If I could talk to him for like 20 minutes, I'd be like, say this, 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 and this. We could fix everything. But, you know, he has that power. He could reach all those people and he could bring attention to anything he wants in the world. But he doesn't know what's going on. He's like promoting Tommy Robinson. So that's his depth of political knowledge.
All right, viewers, we've got 25 minutes left before we've got a 2.5-hour Freemasons podcast coming up, followed by a live Q&A on that. So get your questions in now, folks. We've got almost 3,000 watching live across all of the platforms. Don't forget, Ryan D's store, 10% off Epstein merch, promo code Atwood, link in description. As
all
is the
caps.
Link to Ryan's, as is the link to Ryan's X, and you can watch all of our Ryan's videos on the Ryan D playlist. I'll put these links in the live chat now, so please keep your questions coming in. And we
not all of our interviews.
Well, yeah,
not all of them.
80% were wiped off the face of the earth. So on Rumble, some of them are on my hard drive here. Anyway, next question from Positivity. What will Trump have to say after Tuesday's vote? Dems and the FBI were never going to release anything. Trump was clever to get Dems and Republicans to demand the release. And bonus, it exposed rhinos.
You know, like, could he really? Let's say I'm fully confident Thomas Massie has the votes, so it'll pass. What's he gonna do? I mean, the Senate already shot it down 51-49 from their side. If the House passes this, can he really veto a bill that says to release the Epstein files? How? If he does, that's not only political suicide for him. You can forget midterms for all Republicans. Even though both parties are involved, that's not how it'll work. It'll be like, well, he did that, so his party's finished. And you sort of saw this in the last elections for mayors and things that we had. Mamdani won in New York, even though he went against Israel. All 5 races Democrats won, including in Virginia. So you could look at a complete sweep on the midterms if the Republican Party will not divorce itself from Israel, because honestly, this whole Epstein thing is them anyway. That's who he was working for. If these Christian Zionists continue to promote filth like Ted Cruz and Randy Fine, they're going to get cleaned out in the midterms. Even if it goes back to the people that think women have a penis or whatever, crazy is better than cruel. And, you know, the Republicans, yeah, I would point out Biden did it too, but threatening war with Venezuela and Nigeria and a second war with Iran and escalating things in Ukraine, and maybe we'll give them tomahawks, maybe not. Like, you're going to drive us off a cliff, you know, and you had ICE arrest some people. I think he just decriminalized THC, which has nothing to do with pot, by the way. He just keeps, his base just doesn't care. It's like, yeah, the border's a big deal, but you're preventing people from coming in, but you're not deporting people who are already in, or people who get in by overstaying visas, not by like running across the land. Like, that's not how most people get in illegally. So whatever. I think MAGA became MIGA. I think it was always MIGA, but I think people now see it as MIGA, make Israel great again. And they're finished. Like, no one wants that. Nobody. They're so delusional. Nobody besides the ones getting paid, like Ted Cruz, totally not a closet bisexual. No one other than them wants this. They vehemently oppose it.
What about these Looney Tunes like Lindsey Graham?
Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham drinks water bottles with both hands. You know what I mean? Guy's queer as a football bat. Lindsey Graham's ride or die Israel for sure. But he's a senator, so you got to wait 6 years to get them out. But I'm talking about the congressional midterms, which is mostly going to be House members. They're done. If they're like, if you take AIPAC money or you take money from Zionist billionaires directly or UDP or any, I'll have all the affiliate groups. If they take money from any of these people, just vote for someone else. I don't care who it is. There's nothing worse than being governed by a bunch of criminal pedophiles that run around blowing up apartment buildings and hospitals. They're arguing in Israel whether they have the right to rape prisoners. Like, that is how you cannot negotiate with lunatics. Like, this isn't a real country. There's no one that behaves like that in the modern world other than them.
All right, next question. Why did Epstein refer to Obama as the boss?
Probably because he was president. I don't know. Don't know what his nicknames were for.
Why did Epstein say Trump was dangerous? Was he dangerous to Epstein's operation?
Well, it was under Trump's presidency that Burnell and Maxwell and Epstein got arrested. So something got through. But Trump is dangerous because he's irredeemable narcissist and only loyal to himself. Now, there is some overlap, like with the Charles Kushner, to a point, did get along with Hood Barak, Epstein, Wexner crowd, and they had a huge falling out. But Epstein wins at a New York Observer party, for example, the big cake and all that stuff. But Trump looks out for Trump. And so an ally like that will always turn on you whenever it's convenient, because they operate on the same kind of Machiavellian principle. And so you got to have something on them. And this is the thing. It's like, but he's got a lot on you also. You can't go after Trump without him burning the whole thing down. And so they had to let it go. But you see, he was still trying to manipulate him and talking to Bannon and a lot of Trump's inner circle all the way up to at least a month before he got arrested the second time. So, they were thinking, well, Trump could say, oh, Epstein's just part of cancel culture and got a bad rap. Like, they never know. And that's the thing. Trump seems to be whoever he last talked to. He's more unpredictable than Kim Jong-un, which is saying something. In fact, Kim Jong-un said about Trump, he's erratic and unpredictable. And that's rich coming from him. The guy that sent poop balloons to South Korea.
What details do you have about Frank
Giustra? Yeah, he's a middleman in the Clinton Foundation that would wash their money. He's a Canadian Clintonite, we can say. I don't think he was part of the Clintoning people, if you know what I mean. But he definitely was a money washer for their laundering operation, for sure. He was central in moving kids out of Haiti and a lot of nasty things. Well, not that he transported them, but without his money washing, it wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, they set up the Arkansas Development Finance Authority to boost jobs in the local economy. Yeah. What they actually were doing was giving their mates loans. You had to cut a check to the Rose Law Firm to get a loan that you never had to pay back. That's how they were laundering the money. Larry Nichols exposed a lot of that. Did you listen to what Larry Nichols was saying before he expired?
Well, I know about that, and that, if you want to go way back to the MENA days,
yeah,
they were training pilots for Iran-Contra. Barry Seal knew Bill Clinton personally, because Barry Seal, trained by David Ferry, by the way, also always surrounded by women, the kind he paid for, not the kind he attracted.
Barry Seal, who died with George H.W. Bush's phone number on his person.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't ask about Vince Foster.
Hashtag Clinton body count. Lisa wants to know.
If you want a guy to talk about that, I mean, I can talk about it, but I would rather give that to Mike Rivero. He did a lot of work on Vince Foster.
I would love to get someone on to go over the whole Vince Foster story. If he would be,
that would be the guy. Yeah, I can set that up for you.
That'd be fantastic. Lisa wants to know: do we know the half of this, referring to all the Epstein information? I think
no. I don't think I know the half of it either. Like,
Tip of the iceberg.
it's just there's so many girls, and these parties they would go to, it's like some people are just associates. But if you think about all the people that had to have known who just kept them quiet, but part of me thinks that they might have thought it won't do any good. It'll just bring heat on me and they won't prosecute them. And they probably right. Our system's broken. I often say, like, I'm wearing the client list. I have a map on my chest. I have the book of names right here and here. Who am I supposed to give this to? Like what CNN or something? What am I supposed to do with this? Because I would love to have a sit down and go over each name and go over the documents and why they're in this notebook. That's not going to happen. They want emails and number. They want, like, I don't know. It's frustrating.
All right, next question.
At least Dick Cheney's dead.
Didn't they make a documentary about his heart? Anyway, he had a heart operation years ago. One of the most evil people in the world, Dick Cheney, made billions off the fake war in Iraq, weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah,
soldiers. We taxpayers would pay $20 to $50 if a soldier ate a banana in the canteen, and they made showers that electrified the soldiers and killed more soldiers than combatants.
There was a lot of blue on blue in that war and in Afghanistan. And he was part of that too. Don't forget that whole 21-year war, was it? I think started by Bush and Cheney.
Could Amy Wallace, as co-author, authorize the release of previously retracted info from Virginia's book? I think she's only held back by her desire to respect Virginia wishes.
That's up to her. I mean, there's really no point because we've kind of deduced all the people anyway. Everyone knows it was Glenn Dubin and Ehud Barak, and like you can go through who billionaire 1, 2, and what prime minister. Although there are multiple prime ministers. That's what's really messed up. But it was Barak. He was actually, what was weird is Netanyahu actually tweeted the picture of Ehud in his stupid coat with the fur hat and stuff in New York when he was going to visit Epstein there during the Israeli elections, because he wanted to hurt their Labor Party. And let's be clear, Labor, Likud, whatever, doesn't matter. They're all sickos. It didn't matter if it was Ehud or Ariel Sharon or Bibi Netanyahu or whatever. They're all monsters. But yeah, he was like, I know what you did, Ehud. Epstein did put millions of dollars into his coffers in Reporty Carbine through the Wexner Foundation, which he was a trustee of. And so was Bronfman. And it's weird because Charles Bronfman's house, he sold a house to Robert Miller, who molested high school girls and younger for 3 decades. And he's going to jail finally. And so did his henchmen. They're all in trouble. There has been zero news on that case. Richest man in Quebec, molested women, girls for 3 decades. It's like a local story. It's weird. The Lee Brothel case, by the way, remember we talked about it a few months ago. I was saying this was going to happen. They decided they prosecuted the pimps, but they will not go after any of the Johns.
Of course. And, just going back to what you said about Ehud Barak as well, the two most sickening parts of Virginia's book were the allegations against her father and his buddy, Uncle Forrest. They nicknamed him, the father nicknamed him. That's sickening. But then to choke Virginia out and be aroused over it, and Jeffrey tells it's part of the job, get on with it. Absolutely disgusting. So Lady C, her theory was that that Israel knew Ehud Barak, was mentioned in the book as the prime minister, and they had Virginia unalived in a way there would be no investigation, and then that the media was structured so all the heat would fall on Prince Andrew. But now it's all it seems the heat seems to be transferring over to Trump.
Now there wouldn't be an investigation anyway because he's Israeli, so there's never going to be an investigation. She definitely unalived herself. Like she only had days to live anyway. Her kidneys were failing. So,
but the pressure that was put on her to do that by these black ops people and people
yeah,
like
in a way,
Lady Victoria Hervey, who's still
she
doubling
never would have
down.
started Xanax and pain pills had they not abused her whole life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're all ultimately responsible in my eyes.
They are. Yeah.
All right. Next question.
But killing her brought new attention to the case, like her not dying, not like her book would have come out anyway, but that made people talk about Epstein again when there was a lull, you know. And her book should have gotten a lot more attention than it did. But
well,
now
it's number one all over the world on Amazon. It has been in the UK.
Yeah. But not a lot of them like talking heads on TV, I'm saying.
Of course, they're all controlled out. They just rail about Prince Andrew.
Yeah, who owns that? Oh.
All right, 10 minutes left, folks. Huge thank you for all your questions coming in so far. Get your final questions in now, please. A few people are asking if there's any Dutch or Danes involved with Epstein.
There were some both Dutch and Danes in the Black Book. Well, off the top of my head, nothing major off the top of my head.
There was a spread of European.
Norway, you didn't ask that, but that's Scandinavia. I'm just kind of lumping that in with Denmark for some reason.
Yeah, there was a spread of European royals in it, wasn't there?
Spain too.
Was Trump possibly at Epstein's house for Thanksgiving 2017?
Was Trump at Epstein's house
for Thanksgiving 2017?
I know Robert Kennedy was there at an Easter party after a fossil hunt. Thanksgiving. Where was Trump in 2017? I don't know that off the top of my head. There might be, I've got my files. I don't recall that, though, that he was there for Thanksgiving. Trump has a pretty big family. He usually spends Thanksgiving with his family, usually in New York.
Will Maxwell be released early from her country club style prison?
There's talk that she could get a pardon. Which is just like, man, was Thomas Crooks the good guy the whole time? That's the guy who missed him in Pennsylvania. Full redemption arc. If he pardons Maxwell, that's it. That's it for his whole party forever, and there will never be MAGA. Like, people will be burning red hats. He doesn't get it. He's so out of tune with the common person. They asked him about it. He's like, oh, I haven't thought about that. Like, no, you should be an absolute definitive no. She's not getting a pardon ever. Hell no. I wish her well.
So does this play into the theory then that Trump is a Trojan horse to ruin the conservative agenda, taking in consideration that he supported Democrat politicians in New York most of his life? He
would not take a personal fall on the sword like that to his own legacy and name. No, it's nothing. There's no like 4D chess. He's just an idiot. And he's guilty.
Saint Germain, does Ryan know that Jeffrey had the ear of Viktor Churkin, who was the forceful Russian ambassador to the UN before his death in 2017? This is from another recent email, which could change everything.
I saw that on Epstein actually knew a lot of Russian bankers out of that similar circles, Boris Berezovsky and Mikhail Khodorkovsky and some of the Lukoil and Rosneft boys, who are deep friends with Rupert Murdoch, Mark Rich, and Pincus Green. The last two names I just said were pardoned by Bill Clinton. And you're going to find out that there was some Russian banking involved in moving Epstein's money around. Not like legit bets from Bear Stearns or anything. I mean, criminal money.
Let's see. Does Trump have to release everything soon so he doesn't just take the blame for all the dirty men?
The oversight committee is doing a vote. So if Trump is smart, he will not veto it. He'll just sign it and say, okay, fine. But, I still think this is a distraction and stick to his story and hope that Pan Bondi has gone through and expunged everything incriminating on him to make it look like, see, I told on him. I didn't like this guy. And that is exactly when he's saying, oh, why don't you look at Larry Summers or Reid Hoffman? Or like, yeah, I agree. We'll look at them also. He started dropping names. He said, or a certain hedge fund manager. That's definitely Glenn Dubin. But he asked Bondi, like, look, she's going to go over and give us anything pertinent. But Bondi is a Trump dingleberry. And she knows what that means. Keep me out of it. Throw everyone else under the bus. And that's much more likely this scenario of what they're going to find. I just think there's so much stuff that they're going to make a mistake. And we're going to figure it out anyway.
Right, we're going to have to leave it at that for now, folks. Our Freemasons podcast is premiering. Is there anything like to say in conclusion, Ryan?
I just hope everybody has good holidays. Have a good Thanksgiving if you're in America. And if you want a nice Christmas present for somebody, get some of the gear. It's right there. Where is it? Right there. antineocon.com. We're selling a product called Buxton Strong. It's the island where I'm from. It's going underwater. A jetty broke, and there's some 50 houses have fallen in the water. They were not built on the water, by the way. The water moved. They were built hundreds of yards away, many of them 30, 40 years ago when there were 3 jetties. When the first 2 jetties broke, we were screaming, help. If that last one breaks, we're all going to drown. It did, and it's just a complete and utter disaster. And so we're raising things for the Civic Center and stuff down there. So if you want to help North Carolina out, get anything with the word Buxton on it. But we're also selling Epstein maps and a lot of things in there. And it helps support journalists like me because I'm pretty much banned on everything and shadow banned on X. So this is what we got left. And props to Sean for having the testicular fortitude, as Vince McMahon would say, to bring people like me on when we know we're flirting with strikes and censorship. We already went through it once, and he still brought me back. So y'all got to tip your hat to that.
Absolutely. And you're welcome to stay at my house anytime. So 10% off Epstein merch. Link in description if you're watching on replay. Link on the screen right now and in the live chat. I'm going to get some of Ryan's new merch. So please join us supporting his mission. We're going to end now. This will take you over to the Freemasons. Did they murder the Essex boy?